Hi, friend. I hope you had an awesome week. Today, we're still in our series about the Lion King. Okay, this line here is kind of falling down, but you can sit around my head. So, today I want to talk about, or draw a little parallel about, calling and how that makes a huge difference. So, in the movie, again, like we talked about last few weeks, it's about this lion Simba, and he loses his dad to an accident, and he escapes or runs away into a foreign land. So he lives in that foreign land, right? In that foreign land, he meets like this pig, Pumbaa, and this kind of other animal. I don't know what it is. And they become really great friends, and it's just wonderful. And they run around, and they have this little song, and it's called Hakuna Matata. What a wonderful phrase, Hakuna Matata. Um, yeah, and then they talk about a life that's like worry free, a life that's like you don't have to think about anything, like you just live from day to day, you don't worry about anything, or you don't think about anything, you have no responsibilities, or any of this, right? So that's what he's thinking. He lives in that land, right? And then his girlfriend from his childhood comes and says like, hey, you're supposed to be king. What are you doing? Why are you here? And he's like, oh, I just want to live this worry-free life. Like, it's just awesome, and it's just relaxed, and like, I love it here. Why would I want to go? Um, and go back to like a land where I have to reign. Like, being king is probably lots of work and whatever. I'll just enjoy this life here. But that's not what he was made to be. He wasn't made to be this like guy like that just lives like there in this foreign land and just runs around with like the pig and like this other animal and does nothing, right? He has a purpose on his life. He has a calling on his life. And the calling is to be king, to reign over his animals, like in this case, in his land, and to make sure everything's okay, right? So, fast forward, he decides he's going to become king. Like, he decides like he's going to step into that role. So he goes back to his land. But then he arrives, and his land is a mess. Everywhere carcasses around, everything looks run down, it looks terrible, right? It doesn't look good at all. Like, he's not going back to some kind of like happy place. Like, the land where he lived in was beautiful and was all green and just awesome. But the land, like his home, was all run down. And why? Because this other king, his uncle, reigned, and he ran everything down, and he worked like with those hyenas. And those hyenas are kind of like pretty evil. They just kill everything. So they didn't really take care of the land. They just destroyed it. So he was just about power, the other king. Like, he wasn't watching out for his people. He didn't really care about the land. He just wanted to overcome it, right? So when he becomes king, Simba eventually becomes king. He overcomes like the other ruler, like the uncle, and he becomes king. So over time, he starts ruling, and the land comes back to its full beauty because its real king is there. Its real king is ruling over it, and the animals come back. It becomes like a normal setup again, and things start to change. It's just like really amazing, like how much things are happening in that short amount of time. But it's really cool. But there's a parallel. When we look at the Bible, we see that a lot too. When we look in the Old Testament especially, and we look at the stories of the kings, we can see it really clear. There's a lot of times where there were kings that really followed God with all their heart, and what happened? The land prospered. The people followed God because they had like a king that was in his calling, in like really stepping into what God called him to be. But then there's other kings coming, and those other kings, they're like kind of people that look out for themselves. They're more worried about like, wow, I want to be king. I want to, it's about me. It's about all those things. They're not so much about God's business, and they don't even follow God necessarily. They walk away from God, and what happens? The land goes down. It's not doing well. Like, people are struggling, other kings are attacking, like bad things are happening. It's interesting. It's because those people are not stepping into the calling that God has on their lives. They choose just watching out for themselves. But that's not what God called us to be. You know? God called each one of us to live a life to make a difference. God called you to a specific place. That God didn't call you to comfort and to all those things. Yes, they can come. That's fine. You can have them. That's okay. But God called you to bring the good news to people. And God called you and each one of us to a place. I don't know what your place is. My place is North Beach, San Francisco, where I live. This is where He wants me to bring like the good news and His love. Through like loving people and just being who I am and just being a true friend. Just being here. Just living like He did when He was here. But that's what He's calling you to. But you have to find your place. Don't run into comfort. Don't run into securities that are not from Him. Remember in The Lion King when he just went to this foreign land and everything was perfect. Like he had everything to eat, he had everything. But his people were suffering. So what people are suffering because we don't step into our calling? The people out there, you know? Our lives and our callings are important to places. Because if we don't go there, if the people that God calls to those places don't go, what happens? The enemy starts taking over those places. Lies start taking over those places. And they're not brought the truth. They're not changed. We are partnering with God. We are co-laboring with Him. We are the ones that makes the difference. We are His hand and feet. So I want to encourage you today and challenge you with that. Pray and ask God what your land is. What is your place? And then ask Him, what are you supposed to do? May it be just loving the people around you, your neighbors. I don't know. Or it may be something bigger, becoming the mayor of your town. I don't know. I'm not sure what God's calling you to do. But I want to encourage you. Step into that calling. Because if you don't do it, the enemy loves to take over. There will always be those uncles, like in The Lion King, that are taking over, but they're not following God. So I just want to encourage you with that. Step into your calling. Make a difference. Follow God in that. Okay? And if you don't really know what your land is and what your place is, that's okay too. Then keep asking God. But you can start where you are. Because He already gave you the job. Love your neighbor. It can be very simple, right? It can be right next door. So I just want to encourage you with that. Start today. You can make a difference. Have a blessed week. Bye.